There's plenty of theories that I've heard of throughout the years, some of which I've covered on the channel, most of which I haven't yet. A lot of lore I'd love to get into, and can't wait to tackle when the time comes. There aren't many pieces of gaming lore that interest me more than Kirby's lore, specifically everything surrounding dark matter. The Kirby series is interesting because on its surface, it's cute and cuddly, with some of the most adorable characters in the gaming medium. Under the surface, though, exist some of the darkest creatures, especially in conception, you could ever imagine. This isn't just random or edgy for the sake of being edgy. There's a rhyme and reason to this. It can be simply explained as the concept of good versus evil, light and dark in their purest forms, dream versus nightmare, the Lord and the devil, and our free will, mixed with infinite possibilities. To be either an abomination that seeks to corrupt and destroy everything around us, or to become something that helps and uplifts others. What better way to portray that than with Kirby himself? There's no denying that Void Termina is the origin of dark matter, but some would like to shoot down the theory that would suggest that Kirby is also a spawn of Void. In this video, I'd like to not only debunk the, debunking, but I'd also love to walk through this with you. The design around Termina, dark matter, and the symbolism throughout the series. The video title was not clickbait. I'd like to cover everything that has to do with this character, the theories surrounding him, and what I personally believe to be one of the best pieces of subtle storytelling in modern history. Long before the current events of the Kirby universe, there was a mysterious civilization simply known now as the Ancients. With their unmatched knowledge, they could shape reality as they pleased. They created artifacts capable of reshaping existence, tools so potent that, once the Ancients vanished, they became catalysts for chaos. From the Master Crown to the Clockwork Stars, these remnants sparked many of the dangers Kirby would later face. We've seen their creations as far back as the Star Rod, which was used to seal away Nightmare. There were two main factions among the Ancients: those who wielded the power of science, and those who relied on magic. At some point, the Ancients discovered Void, a constant across the multiverse, and witnessed one of its incarnations take form as Void Termina, a destructive force they ultimately sealed away with the help of the four heroes of yore. This event became known as the Galactic Crisis. Who these heroes were remains unknown, save for one, an individual so powerful that he too was sealed away for fear of his strength. Terrified by the sheer force these individuals could conjure, the Ancients turned on their own. Anyone capable of wielding or relying on magic was banished. Among them was Hyness, a priest, along with his loyal followers, powerful magic users who had once helped overcome the threat of Void. It's worth noting that they were once allies of the science-wielding faction, making this a deep betrayal. After the Purge, the Ancients gradually faded into obscurity, but their legacy lived on. To this day, figures like Marx, Magalore, and Haltman have either descended from them or tapped into their dangerous technologies and relics. As for Hyness, his hatred toward the Ancients festered into obsession. This would eventually lead to the creation of a cult, one built upon a new religion. banished to the edge of the galaxy, erased from history by those who once called them friends, Hyness and his followers were left to rot in obscurity. But even in isolation, faith took root. Sometime after the exile, Hyness received a vision, a divine message from what he believed to be a god, calling out to him and offering salvation in a distant, peaceful land. This vision aligned eerily with a passage in an old sacred text known as the Book of Legend, which spoke of a being called Void. Hyness, driven by desperation and divine awe, became convinced that Void was the very god from his vision, and thus the Jambastan religion was born. Rooted in the beliefs and traditions of Hyness's original clan, the religion carried on their ancient language, their reverence for shadow and darkness, and their worship of a power they called the Matter Most Dark. The Jambastan devotees, united by this cause, honed both weapons and magic tools of both war and ritual, as they grew into a powerful militant faith. Their ultimate goal? To resurrect Void in its most fearsome form, Void Termina, and unleash him upon the universe as divine retribution, not just to destroy, but to avenge the suffering and erasure of their people. At some point, the Jambastan cult obtained the Jamba Heart, a vessel of Void's essence, sealed away long ago. But Hyness, desperate and lacking full understanding, fractured the heart while attempting to break its seal. And this leads us into the events of Star Allies. Around this time, Hyness also recruited the three mage sisters, Francisca, Flameberge, and Zen Partizan, all of which joined the cause after being saved from near death. We can't talk about the Jambastan religion and skim by the central figure surrounding it. Let's talk about Void Termina is seen in one of three forms: demon, angel, and embryo. In his demon form, it's easy to see why he takes up the name Destroyer of Worlds. He's big, bulky, and incredibly intimidating. I'm drawn to the mask first, and his mask, really his whole head, resembles the symbol of the Jambastan religion, which was possibly modeled after Termina in this form, since that's how Hyness would have seen him during the Galactic Crisis, with the wings representing his angel form. You've probably noticed this by now, but both the mask and the symbol have a heart-like shape. You'll notice a heart motif in a lot of Void's design choices, but it's clear to see that's also what the symbol was referencing. I don't think it's random either that these characters also wear masks. He wears purple and gold armor throughout his body. Purple and gold are both colors associated with wealth and royalty, so this gives him almost a sort of regal feel, and fits his godly status. One of the elephants in the room we must acknowledge is the fact that, during the fight, Termina summons and conjures different relics to assist him in the battle, like an axe and the Master Crown itself. Each of these resemble one another, which suggests they were all created by the same source. It's likely that the Master Crown itself was originally created and intended for use by Void Termina, along with his weaponry. Why? Well, he's donned an armor that also looks like these relics, so he either A, got this armor and weaponry from the ancients that created it for him, B, copied it from memory of his time fighting the ancients, or C, is somehow linked to these artifacts. It's possible that it could be all three somehow. Perhaps the magic-wielding ancients created these relics for Termina before he was fought and sealed away. Its link to the magic-wielding ancients and Void made it so that anyone who would use, let's say, the Master Crown, who wasn't strong enough to wield it, would be consumed by its power and possessed by it. Void then copied these relics from memory after reawakening. Either way, he's closely tied to these relics, and I doubt it's a random fashion choice. His second, angelic form resembles that of a sort of bird, or, well, you know, an angel. He grows wings and takes to the sky. He now has a tail that's linked together by heart-shaped links or joints. Do these stained glass wings look familiar to you? If you've played Kirby 64, they should. because those are incredibly similar to Zero Two's wings. You can especially tell that in Void's Soul Melter difficulty fight. It's worth noting that in this specific form, his body is white, further lending to the Zero Two reference. This won't be the only time we see him resembling Zero. Now we get to the cream of the crop, Void's true form, his embryo form. Before we crack it open, it's encased in a protective shell, which spews out the same symbols that are on his outer body. Once opened, it's a pink ball, and makes the same face as our pudgy hero. That's not all. He also makes a face resembling dark matter. When he does so, the true eye appears in the same way it does with Zero Two and Magolor. It's worth noting that the true eye seems to be a separate part of its body, suggesting the idea that this would exist regardless of the face he makes. His Soul Melter EX form is most distinct, as not only does the boss intro show the hyperzone, but the white coloration looks almost exactly like Zero. The only links to Kirby aren't simply his color and face. Let me play Void's scream for you. Now let's speed it up by 2 times. Now take a listen to this. Someone that sucks people into their body and copies their different attributes. Why does that sound familiar? There seems to be a central theme here of good and evil, with his ability to copy both Kirby and dark matter, and his angel and devil forms. We'll get more into that later, but I did want to mention one other small detail regarding Void's true form. So there's the obvious Zero and dark matter connection, but there's another small detail you may have missed. I'm talking about the conjunctival veins present around his, well, eye. Eye seem to be a very common reoccurring thing throughout the series, so... The Dark Matter Swordsman, Dark Matter 002, Dark Mind, Drossia, Dark Nebula, Magolor, Necrodius, Dark Crafter, Star Dream, and finally, Void Termina. Every single boss in the series has some relation to Void in one way or another, but almost all of them share a common visual motif: eyes. This is the most apparent in the Dark Matter family. Dark Matter's invasion of Dreamland in Kirby's Dream Land 2 was fueled by jealousy, a corrosive, consuming envy of light and harmony it could never possess. Zero acts as a kind of living hive for Dark Matter, and after the original Dark Matter was defeated, Zero took to the helm and invaded Dreamland itself in the follow-up game. These are beings of negative emotion and energy, which explains their weakness to the Love Stick, the weapon used against Zero in Dreamland 3. Zero 2 is simply the soul of Zero, still alive somehow after the events of Dreamland 3, or perhaps resurrected. You can tell not just from the name and visual similarities, but also from the bandage on its head, placed exactly where its body had originally split open. They act like parasites, an infestation that spreads across planets, and even entire solar systems. Their purpose for doing so, beyond simple jealousy, is unknown, but we can safely assume it's probably not a good one. Sometimes Dark Matter takes on different appearances, but they all share the same core traits: a hunger to take over worlds and shroud them in darkness. Interestingly, there's one particular member of the Dark Matter family that acts entirely different from the rest, and actually behaves a lot like Kirby. That would be Gooey, the only other character in the series who can copy abilities by consuming enemies, and he's a Dark Matter. one who thrives off positive energy and emotions rather than negative. Interesting. We have miracle matter, which can use all elements. Void even uses in his attacks. In alchemy, the prima materia is the original shapeless substance from which all things are made, the shapeless origin of all form, raw chaos holding all opposites. Miracle matter is that substance made manifest, endlessly shifting, never settling. Then there's dark mind, a mirror version of Zero from the mirror dimension, and Drossia, a witch from a world within a painting. At first glance, Drossia might not seem related, but her eye emmed in her stomach, her clothing, which resembles the dark matter swordsman's, and especially her soul form, make the resemblance clearer. She even creates strange creatures called paramatters. She also shows signs of having a clairvoyant awareness of the player, which is creepy. We've established most of the key players, most of the dark matter family and their ever-present eyes, but why do they have them? The eye isn't just a random physical trait, it's a symbol of presence, control, and most disturbingly, of identity. They can change their form, they can wear a mask, grow wings, or wield magic, but in the end, they all look back at you with that same haunting eye. Kirby consumes with his mouth, dark matter consumes with its eye. But there's a key difference. Where Kirby takes in new information, adapts, and grows, dark matter is static, only devouring without understanding. Kirby copies, transforms, and internalizes what he encounters. It's as if it returns to the void within him, a nurturing void, one that creates. Dark matter's void, through its eye, rejects change. It absorbs without becoming. This distinction, consumption with purpose versus consumption without meaning, might be the deepest thread linking Kirby, dark matter, and void together. All three are voids, in a sense, but only one brings light out of it. Whereas in this case, the mouth is love, change, and life, the eye is fear, control, and death. In terms of symbolism, there is of course the evil eye, coming from Turkish folklore. It's also present in Christian, Jewish, Islamic, and Hindu traditions. This idea that a look filled with envy or hatred can cause harm, illness, or misfortune. Remember what we discussed before about dark matter's jealousy in Dreamland 2? In Gnostic belief, the material world is created by a false, imperfect god called the Demiurge, often depicted as having one eye or being blind, contrasted with the hidden true god. The Demiurge traps souls in the material world, mistaking himself for the true creator. In some versions, he's envious of the spiritual realm he cannot touch. Some of the bosses, Stardream, Magalore, and Zero, seem godlike, but they're empty shells, obsessed with control, not enlightenment. In reality, dark matter is the, matter that holds all of reality together. In this case, it can be seen as the universe looking back in on itself. The eye, especially when tied to dark matter, represents the universe becoming aware of itself. A singular, unblinking stare. It watches, but cannot change. It sees, but cannot love. And just like in real-world cosmology, dark matter is invisible, yet essential. It holds the universe together. It shapes galaxies, but we can't see or touch it. It's a binding force that is there, but not really there. Like a distant god, like Void. Meanwhile, Kirby's eyes aren't blank voids like Zero, they're not bleeding, staring, and consuming. They're star fields. The night sky in his eyes reflects the hopeful, loving cosmos. An infinite space that welcomes. Where dark matter sees and judges, Kirby experiences and learns. He copies, adapts, grows. His eyes show the universe not looking in on itself in fear, but reaching out towards joy. Kirby of the stars. That's why he's shaped like one. So we know what he looks like and why he looks like it. However, we also need to discuss what he's made of and what he can become. Before we get there, understanding the text is integral. English localizers, notorious for changing entire scripts, messing up character motivations, and leaving out crucial lore that can completely alter how we see a game. Don't worry, anime fans, you're not alone. We Kirby fans got it bad too. Let's start with a few examples. In Triple Deluxe, it says that Shadow DDD's true enemy is a darkness in his heart, but in the original Japanese version, they're referring to regular DDD. That changes the meaning entirely, because now you're not fighting a separate angsty clone, you're literally fighting the darkness inside King Dedede himself. But nothing got hit harder than Star Allies. So much of the deeper lore around Void Termina and Hyness was altered or removed entirely. During Hyness's breakdown, the English version says his clan were Masters of a Matter Most Dark, but in Japanese, it says they were Worshippers of a Matter Most Dark. That's a huge distinction. One implies control, the other implies devotion, a cult, not a research team. The English script also mentions scrolls on Void, except there were never scrolls. In Japanese, it's the Book of Legend. That makes it feel a lot more sacred, doesn't it? And then we get to Void, where things really go off the rails. In the Japanese version of Void's soul's description, it says that he can be brought to life in a variety of forms, depending on the energy gathered. This energy isn't defined as positive or negative, unlike the English version. Even bigger, in the Soul Melter EX description for a second phase, an entire line was removed. Dream, dark, soul, heart. All chaos and possibilities gather in the substance, and it is born as the progenitor of origination. That's huge. This line outlines 4 core forces in the Kirby universe: Dream, Dark, Soul, and Heart. Together, they represent all chaos and possibilities, and from them, Void is born, the progenitor of origination. The original being. That one line reshapes everything we thought we knew. It also explains yet another mistranslation. In Japanese, it says Void took the shape of a star. The English version completely removes this detail, and just states they wrote the scrolls after witnessing a void in another dimension. And lastly, the Japanese script says there are as many voids flying freely as there are dimensions. The English version, it just says he's omnipresent. Not quite the same. One implies endless variations of void, each shaped by the world around them, and really becoming the world around them. The other just says he's everywhere. I'll break down what this actually means in the theory section, but for now, we're looking at a massive chunk of lore, completely cut from the English version of the game. And it's not just trivia, it changes everything about who and what Void really is. Before we get into the theory section, there's an infamous interview people tend to bring up regarding the theories surrounding Void. It's an interview from Shinya Kumazaki that, for some reason, people use to shoot down the discussion and theories surrounding him. I think they're wrong. But let's go over it and see what he says. People often reference a specific developer quote to debunk the idea that Kirby and Void Termina are related. But if you look closely, the quote doesn't disprove anything. In fact, it leaves a lot up to interpretation. And that's exactly where the most interesting theories are born. So, let's look at the quote. In the interview, the interviewer asks, "The core that appears inside Destroyer of Worlds Void Termina sometimes looks exactly like Kirby's face. What is actually happening inside of Void?" Shinya Kumazaki says, "This is a question that approaches the heart of the matter, so I'm very hesitant to answer. But for those who are interested, I'll leave a little room for imagination. Dark hearts were collected and Void became a destroyer god, but the insane Hyness was already spit out by the time he took on his final form. While that last form of Void was being born, his innocent spirit began to mix with the urge to destroy and annihilate. During such time, he saw Kirby for the first time, felt something, and started to resemble his face. He was also influenced by the various hearts that were collected by Hyness, and transforms into various other faces as well. Hyness, who knew from the Book of Legend about Void's nature, in which he is imbued by those who give birth to it, was the one who wanted to first meet Void. After Hyness is spit out from the Void, he escapes from that space with the 3 mage sisters, and then, what kind of mind does Void have at that time? This one also simulates the imagination, doesn't it? To express the wishes for these villains in this work, I decided to name the final battle song Fourth Movement, Hope of Birth. There are a few key takeaways from this quote. Void is shaped by those who give birth to it, meaning it reflects the influence of its creators or the emotions it absorbs. It mimics Kirby's face after seeing him for the first time, implying some form of recognition or resonance. It was also influenced by the various dark hearts Hyness fed it, which gave it the ability to change faces. And yet it only transforms into specific forms, primarily Kirby and dark matter. Now, there is one line that might seem like it goes against the theory, specifically, the insane Hyness was already spit out by the time he took on his final form. Some people may take this to mean that Void was no longer being shaped by outside influences like Hyness, and therefore Kirby's face is just a random coincidence. But the very next sentence in the quote tells us something important. He was also influenced by the various hearts that were collected by Hyness, and transforms into various other faces as well. So even after Hyness was expelled, Void was still being influenced by everything that had been thrown into him. That means his final form, the one that takes on Kirby's face, is still the result of this influence. It's not random, and it's not a meaningless coincidence. I mean, think about it. All those different hearts thrown into him, and yet he still only makes two faces. Kirby and dark matter. That's where I think the connection between these three gets even more compelling. Void sees Kirby, feels something, and changes to look like him, and the only other form he takes is that of dark matter, a being long associated with negativity, destruction, and hatred. So, no, the quote doesn't debunk the theory, it simply leaves room for imagination and interpretation. And that's where I come in, baby! I'll cut to the chase and explain my theory as simply as I can, but first, let's go over what we know so far. Void is the progenitor of existence. Depending on which of the four substances that make up Kirby's universe is fed to it, it takes on a different form. As the void of existence, the origin, everything comes from Void, and could very well be Void. And that's my theory. Everything in the Kirby universe is Void. Void takes on many different forms. From this, worlds, lives, and the very stars that hang in the sky are born. There is a direct relation to dark matter and Kirby. I would suggest that this could be because Kirby and dark matter are as closest as you can get to Void. That is to say, they're simple. Pure positive and negative matter. This soul, heart, dream, and dark that they speak of, it's as close as you can get in the formula to reach Void. This would explain why they share so many of the same attributes. The entirety of this series is shaped around pure light and dark fighting for control. The chaos of endless possibilities and free will. The story of choosing to do what's right over what's not. Perfectly shown by one of the purest beings to exist. Cuteness, not for the sake of it, but to show pure love and friendship. Versus parasitic darkness and hatred. What was supposed to be a send-off for the final 2D Kirby game, and the end of an era, ended up showing us not just what Kirby is, but where everything came from. There is as well the obvious religious symbolism, and the comparisons of the Jambashan religion to real-world cultism. Hyness was saved from that, shown the light and saved. Recall that vision Hyness saw. And now look at what it actually meant. Terminal montage, you actually weren't far off. There's a comparison here to be made, and man is it a beautiful one. This all also explains why the final bosses have a few similar attacks. Look at the final boss of Forgotten Land. When it becomes a massive lump of souls, it attacks just the same way as other dark matter enemies throughout the series. That's because when you get down to brass tacks, it's It's all void, baby. It's a story of light prevailing over dark, love conquering all, and purposefully through the lens of a beacon of light. A hand through the dark, like a star shining through the bleakness of night. That's the real story of the Kirby series. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what Void Termina was meant to represent.